was nearly midnight when I reached the metro station. The city above was silent but underground. It was even quieter. The escalator groaned as I descended. The smell of damp concrete filled my nose. Fluorescent lights flickered above, buzzing faintly like dying insects. My footsteps echoed unnaturally, like the tunnels were much bigger than they looked. Something about the silence felt wrong. I wasn't just alone, I felt watched. By the time I reached the platform, my chest was tight and the air was so heavy it was like breathing through water. On the far bench sat a woman in a black veil and long coat. She hadn't moved since I first saw her. Her head was slightly bowed, her hands folded neatly in her lap. I tried not to stare, but the more I glanced, the stranger she seemed. Her clothes weren't modern. They looked old, decades old. Her stillness wasn't natural either, too rigid, like a mannequin placed in the wrong spot. I cleared my throat, trying to shake the unease, but the sound echoed far too loudly, bouncing off the walls and coming back distorted, like someone else was coughing with me. The train arrived in a thunderous roar, sparks spitting from the tracks, brakes screaming like tortured metal. The doors hissed open, and the stale air that escaped smelled of rust and wet stone. I stepped inside quickly, relieved to finally leave the strange platform. But when I turned, my stomach dropped. The woman in black was already inside the carriage, sitting at the far end, motionless, staring straight ahead. I never saw her stand, never saw her walk past me. She was just there. The train pulled away, but something was wrong. There was no sound of wheels, no vibrations, no conductor's voice, just silence. I pressed my ear to the window. Nothing. Outside, there was only endless black, no tunnels, no lights. I leaned back into my seat, my skin crawling. I glanced at the window again. My reflection looked back, but hers didn't. She was sitting right behind me. I could feel it. But in the glass, only my lonely reflection stared back. A sound crept into the silence. At first, I thought it was the wind, but then I realized it was her. The woman's head tilted slightly, her lips moving beneath the veil. I couldn't understand the words, whispers in a language I had never heard. Every syllable crawled under my skin, sinking deep, until it felt like they weren't just in the air, but inside my head. The whispering grew louder, harsher, until it felt like a chant. I covered my ears. It didn't help. The words were still there. The lights above flickered violently, flashing the carriage in strobe-like bursts. In one flicker, she was sitting calmly. In the next, her body twisted into a black shadow stretched across the ceiling, claw-like fingers scraping the metal. The light steadied for a moment. She was normal again. Another flicker. Her face was pressed against mine, her veil gone, eyes hollow and endless. I stumbled back, my heart slamming against my chest, but when the lights finally stopped flickering, she was again seated quietly at the far end, like nothing had happened. The train slowed. The doors opened. But this wasn't a normal station. The platform outside was cracked, tiles broken, covered in thick grime. Dim yellow bulbs flickered overhead, casting sickly light over graffiti carved into the walls. Symbols I didn't recognize, but they pulsed as if alive. The air smelled of soil and old blood, and then I saw them. Dozens of people, pale, silent, standing along the platform. Their clothes were tattered, their eyes hollow, their skin gray like ash. They They stared at me as one, their heads turning in perfect unison the moment the woman in black stood. I bolted through the carriage doors, desperate to escape. But each time I entered a new car, it was the same one. Same seats, same flickering lights, same woman in black sitting at the far end, always closer than before. My breath burned in my chest, sweat dripping into my eyes, but no matter how fast I ran, I couldn't leave that carriage. The whispers followed me, louder and louder. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here. The lights went out completely. I was swallowed by blackness. Then I felt it. Hands, dozens of them, cold, damp, bony fingers clawing at me, grabbing my arms, my legs, my face. They pulled me down, dragging me toward the floor of the train. My mouth opened to scream, but no sound came out. My throat was locked, my lungs frozen. The whispers turned to laughter, echoing from everywhere at once. I kicked, clawed, struggled, until suddenly everything went still. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on the original platform. The air was still. The station looked the same, but something was different. My ticket was still clutched in my hand. I told myself it was a nightmare, that none of it happened. But then I saw the graffiti on the wall, fresh and dripping red. Welcome back. And for a moment, in the reflection of the station's glass, I saw her standing behind me, her veil moving as if whispering, waiting for the next ride.